So with this setup right here, I've got one of the Novas turned on, and it's going through one of Intellitek's fast frames, which is a 3 foot by 4.5 foot frame with a grid in front of it. Now, the Nova, because I have very limited space in here, is only like 1 foot away from this frame. Now, the problem with that is this light does not fill up the whole frame very well. The simple solution would be to move the Nova back to fill the frame up. But when you do that, you also lose intensity because of the inverse square law. Now, I can keep the light the same distance away as it is now, and turn on the second Nova. The light is filling up much more of that frame. I don't have to move the fixture so far away. So I'm not just getting twice as much intensity. I'm actually getting maybe 4 or 8 times as much intensity if my goal was to fill this entire frame up because of that inverse square law. So Aputure's DUAL NOVA Yoke is a huge win for me, just because I can get away with taking away so much less space in my little studio and still get the soft light that I was trying to get. I put this fast frame on one of these cheap newer wall boom arms, which costs, I don't know, $70, and I just clipped it on there with a couple of spring clamps, and I'm able to move it around where I need it to go really easily. So I can just kind of push that boom arm out of the way with the fast frame attached, and kind of just slide it up against the wall and then pull it out when I need to use it. Now that's my new kind of lighting setup for my key light, which has saved me so much space. And I don't have to have the light super far away to keep that soft light. Now, the other thing I'm really excited about with the way the Nova p600c and the DUAL NOVA Yoke and everything all works out is just the DMX behavior of the Nova itself, or rather the lumen radio behavior, because it has lumen radio built in. I put both of the Novas on the same channel. So whatever I do to one, the other one will automatically do whenever I turn on my wireless transmitter, which this is the exalux Control 1. So as soon as I turn this on, it pairs with the Novas, and then I can go crazy with it. Let's just go up to 3% because that's where I was. I can control all the hue, saturation, intensity. Let's go there. Red, saturation, woo. The way it works is what I'm excited about. So I can turn this off, and it will retain the last thing that I set it up to do. The special thing is I can go mess with these manually now. Right, say I jacked up my settings and I did something else. So I can control it manually for as long as I want to. Just, if I don't have my wireless controller on me, or I don't want to find this thing and put a battery on it. But because it's already been paired, as soon as I turn this back on, it'll then take control back of those lights that I already manually screwed around with. And then I'm back in control of whatever I need to do. So it remembers the DMX connection. You don't have to repair it. You can manually mess with them and then just cycle the power on my wireless remote. And then I've got control of my fixtures again. So I don't have to worry about messing up my wireless universe. It's super convenient to be able to have that flexibility. Now, of course, I could put both of the two Novas on a separate channel, but I feel like it just makes way more sense to have the two Novas that are on the DUAL NOVA Yoke mounted together and operating as a single larger fixture, or more like a traditional 2x2. And that's how I perceive this fixture now. I was really happy with the way Aputure designed the Novas to be really flat on both the top and the bottom, because I knew they would design something to where you could stack the fixtures and they wouldn't have to design a 2x2 fixture, because 2 fixtures is just so much more versatile. You can point them in different directions or in opposite directions, so you can light up more space with both Novas and only using a single stand. Now, something you can't do with it is control both of them with a single control box. You still have to have both control boxes for both Novas. It's less of an issue for me because I'm using the wireless controller. You could also use Sidus Link to control them. And I mean, Sidus Link is extremely powerful and only getting more powerful. Soon you'll be able to control third-party fixtures, or really any fixture that has lumen radio built in, with Sidus Link. So all you'll have to do is download Sidus DMX, and then you'll be able to control whatever fixture you want that has lumen radio built in, which is incredible because I mean, I would think that you would need to get some other additional hardware for that, but it operates on that Wi-Fi frequency, which your iPad and your iPhone and whatever else already has. So I guess they tapped into that, and pretty soon you'll be able to control all your fixtures with Sidus Link. And you won't have to go and buy $3,000 of wireless DMX hardware, which is incredible. I mean, I still really like the dedicated interface without having to use an iPad. So I'm still going to continue using this because I think it's really convenient. But the ability to avoid the requirement of buying all that extra hardware is a huge cost savings. And I might not have ever bought this stuff if I knew that I'd be able to control my fixtures with DMX using just an iPad and nothing else. Now let's talk a little bit about the Aputure 600C. It is worth mentioning that because of the mixing element and how large it is, it's not going to produce the hardest light imaginable. It blends the light super well and there's no awkward shadows or anything, but it's a large element. So the further away, the harder the light's going to be. But if you get the light really close to you, it's not going to be just a super hard razor sharp light. You're going to have a little teeny bit of a softness to it, which I think is perfectly adequate for what it is. And a lot of people desire just a tiny bit of softness anyways. But if you're trying to use it as an artistic or creative tool for making a super hard light, you're going to want to get it just a tiny bit further away. And the hyper reflector, I know that it exists. And I mean, I feel like the only reason people would use these is to project it into a frame or direct light into a frame for diffusion. I mean, it works. It does that. It works really well for that. But other than that, those reflectors produce some kind of strange shadows. It just feels like I'm kind of being pedantic at this point. I mean, if I had to say something negative about the modern Bowens light technology, it'd be that the reflectors produce kind of weird shadows. But that's not just Aputure's light. That's any light that uses those kind of, these textured super reflectors, hyper reflectors. Every company has them now. So it's a tool and you can choose to use it. You can choose to not use it. You can choose to use something else. So these brand new fixtures are RGBWW. They're not RGBACL. For every color you add onto a chip, you then lose a maximum output or maximum intensity. The 600C has an 1800 watt chipset and it has a maximum output of 600 watts and a maximum power consumption of 720 watts. Now, if they were to cram an additional color into that would do a few different things. It would probably lower the maximum intensity or the maximum amount of output you would get from it, and it would increase the complexity and take away from the architecture they've developed for the Nova. It all uses the same DMX protocol. I was able to easily and quickly integrate it into my own wireless DMX universe that I use. That would not have been possible if they went to a different color chip or different color combinations and more colors. But also importantly, it pairs perfectly with all of my existing Aputure products, the other Novas that I have in here. RGBACL is a newer emerging technology in terms of, more colors, more combinations, more possibilities in terms of rich and saturated colors that you're trying to achieve. I think they made the right decision keeping it in the same kind of RGBWW wheelhouse. That's another reason why I'm using Aputure's products instead of other products, because they all pair well. They all pair perfectly together and don't have to do any weird things to adjust any colors. Each Nova P600C has 4 screws holding it onto the yoke. You do need to bring your own screwdriver. If you have enough space, I don't, but if you do have enough space, it only takes about a minute to swap the yokes out for the other one. You just lay everything out flat on the floor or flat on a huge desk or workbench or something. It's not difficult. So if you're going to assemble this on set, you take the original yoke off of the P600C and stick each individual yoke into each individual case for storage, because both yokes won't fit into a single case. I also really like that I was able to pair the 600C with my wireless system here, just selecting the Nova P300C as the configuration set, because they all use similar or the same configuration in terms of their DMX profiles. So you don't have to wait for a new specific DMX profile for this fixture to start using it with your DMX hardware. Actually, the DMX setup that I have doesn't include the frequency of the flashing as one of the options because I guess the setup is a little bit older on mine. So when I set it up on DMX, I needed to space out 2 additional channels on my DMX map. Here, actually, you can see it. So for all my fixtures, I just added 2 extra channels to the configuration option. If I didn't have these spaced out by 2 extra channels, if I turned the intensity up on one fixture, it would cause the other one to begin pulsing and flashing. And so to avoid that, I just spaced them out by a couple of channels and it works great. So I know this wasn't the most technical review, and I know that there's probably still a lot of unanswered questions. Is the 600X brighter than the 600C? Well, only a tiny bit. In CCT mode, the 600X is like 2% brighter than the 600C, but you also get all of the color options of the 600C, which I think is incredible. If I was going to recommend a fixture today, it'd be the 600C. It's just, you get so much more out of that fixture than you can the 600X. You also have green magenta tint with the 600C, and that's something you won't get with the 600X. So even then, even if you still only want CCT, you still only want Kelvin temperatures, you don't want all the color options, you still get the value of being able to correct for tint. And I think that's really important. There's so much cool stuff here today, and thank you, Aputure, for providing all this stuff for me to review and play with and talk about and learn about. If you guys have questions, drop them in the comments. There are photometrics available on Aputure's website. Just refer to those. They're extremely accurate. In fact, every time I've measured any one of Aputure's fixtures, they underestimate or are very generous with their measurements in terms of the fixtures that I've gotten have been up to 20% brighter. They're making fixtures that are affordable, blow the competition out of the water in terms of performance and price. And that's why I've been converting all my fixtures in here to Aputure fixtures. So there you go. If you want to buy any of this stuff, there's links to it in the description of this video. And if you're interested in this stuff, subscribe. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.